And before we get going, here's a word about our sponsors. SDHQ Motorsports is a powerhouse 30,000 square foot facility with 45 family members reporting for duty. This single owner, single location business is based out of Gilbert, Arizona. It can handle anything from a hot rod, daily driver, pre-runner, race vehicle, half-track or Kugelwagen, or just about any other project you need help with. Their skilled staff with hundreds of years of combined experience eats, sleeps, and breathes performance. So go check them out at sdhqmotorsports.com or check them out on Insta at sdhqmotorsports. The We Happy Few 506 podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Gettysburg Museum of History, home of the Major Dick Winters collection and the largest assortment of authentic Band of Brothers artifacts in the world. Visit the free museum at 219 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, or at www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com, and on the YouTube channel, The History Underground, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Well, hello, and welcome along to another We Happy Few 506 podcast. I am live outside a laundrette in Weaverville because I invested in Elon Musk's Starlink, or whatever it is, and it is about as much use as a chocolate far guard, as they say, where I come from. So I don't drop out with the lovely Blake Neely, who's acquiesced to come on our Rinky Dink podcast. I've decided to sit outside the Weaverville laundrette, which is a little bit, there's a lot of jeopardy involved here because the guy, as long as you're a customer, you're okay. But if you're not a customer, he will have you towed or clamped. So I was a bit late because I had to sort of like get a wash that just finished as this started and then put my stuff in the dryer. So I'm now baking in a car. Anyway, it's a terrible introduction. Blake Neely, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sir.
What a fabulous introduction.
Yeah, I'm also
I've never been on a podcast outside of laundrette.
Oh, really? Oh, this is your first one. This is going to be good, man. Yeah, this is going to be good. Very sudsy. I'm also
Can you believe it's been 23 years since Band of Brothers?
Today I can, Blake. Yeah, because I talk to everybody, and I made the terrible error yesterday. I went to AutoZone in Weaverville to get my alternator changed. And there was a nice young man behind there at the counter. And I said to him, "Big night tonight, mate?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going catfishing." And I invited myself. Have you ever been catfishing with some Southern boys?
Yeah. I grew up
Yeah.
in Texas.
Right. Okay. So obviously you can tell I'm sweating it out and then I need to go and sleep it off, basically. Because there's no fishing involved. There's no fish. It's
You just sit.
yeah, you just sit and drink beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm lecturing a Texan on catfishing. That's just embarrassing, isn't it?
What brought you to North Carolina?
What I have a friend who is not far from Weaverville in a place called Barnardsville. And my friend has bought a tract of land and he's sort of building a house there. And I do a bit of building as well. So we're going down there and we're sort of living on his land in an airstream, doing a bunch of building. And it's great. It's like a mad little hippie commune. But it's hot or it's rainy. And there are snakes in the airstream as well. So that's a thing as well. Snakes in the airstream are a thing. Ooh, gosh. Anyway, so first and foremost, what's brought you here? Thank you for coming on once again. Is Masters of the Air?
Yeah.
So you wrote the score for Masters of the Air.
I did. I finally got to do one on my own. So I don't know if you know my history, but I went.
No, please tell it. Yeah.
I go all the way back to Michael Kamen was my mentor, and I started working with Michael Kamen in '96. And became one of his orchestrators. And then in 2000, as you know, we started doing Band of Brothers. So I was an orchestrator for his on that score. And then when it came to Pacific in 2009, 2010, which is a crazy long time ago, they brought me in with Hans Zimmer and Jeff Zanelli, and we did that score. And then go forward another 10 years and no, more than that, 14 years. And I said, I want to do masters on my own. Let me do it. I want to have a single voice, and I have some ideas, and I just want to, I'll be one common thread through the entire trilogy.
Can I ask a question about the Pacific score?
Yeah.
Were you influenced by Beethoven's 18th 12?
Interesting. For the main title?
Yeah. If you play the
I can't remember what the Latin word is for the beginning, before the actual main music kicks in. It sounds a bit like the Pacific. Only because I put it on for my daughter the other day, and I was like, that sounds a bit like the Pacific music.
Interesting. Well, I probably, I mean, I listened to classical music since I was a baby, the big
Right.
classical music nerd. Um, my parents had all this vinyl, and I would just listen to Bernstein recordings, and so it's all in there. But that's interesting. I'll have to go back and listen now.
Yeah, have a listen to right from the beginning before that. There's a bit about a minute in, and it does sound a lot like that great bit at the beginning of Pacific, where the sort of the black chalks going across and
Yeah,
snapping, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of music, beautiful piece of music. So you say that Masters of the Air was this is your first one that you've done by yourself
Of the three, yeah.
of the three of the great trilogy themselves.
No, I've done plenty of scores by myself, but this was the one that I just really wanted to because what Jeff and I did on the Pacific is kind of split it up.
Right.
Guess I'd write that. And it was fun. We had a great time doing it, and I'm super proud
Right.
of that score, but I just really wanted the chance to do this one. Um, but yeah, I mean, the fact that I've been working with those guys, Playtone and Amblin, since back in early 2000 is crazy.
How did you get started with them? Because
Through
sometimes,
Michael.
like some people, yeah,
Michael
sometimes
literally
people have
got
the
me
strangest,
started.
yeah, there's sometimes people have the strangest stories. I can't remember, like I think it's Graham Yost who wrote like episode 7 of Band of Brothers, and his story is like, Tom Hanks is one. You want to write one? That's about it. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, like Hank just says, "Do you want to score it?" And you're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't meet those guys when I was orchestrating for Michael. But then, I'd done some work with Michael and you get recommended to other composers. So then I started doing some work with James Newton Howard. And
right,
James called me one day and said, "Hey, there's this movie that Playtone's doing that I can't do. Do you want me to put you up for it?" I'm like, sure.
yeah,
I'm like, sure, let's do it. So that's how I met Playtone. That was like 2005. But yeah, it's been a great career. And now
How,
Masters has just been one of my proudest projects ever. It's taken a life of its own. The music's already sort of transcended the show in that like the US Air Force Band, the Royal Air Force Band, they're playing this theme. So
yeah,
it's great because it gets back to the veterans, which is who we wrote it for.
right. And I guess we'll just dive straight in with that. I've got a bunch of other questions either side of that, really. But so what do you get as a composer? Do you just get like basically the box set and see you in 18 months, or do you get rushes? Are you in? Did the producer speak to you? How do you go about, like, if you could? I mean, it's a bit of a long question here. If you could talk us through like your process as well, because I find it fascinating. I have less than zero musical ability, so
Um, so music, we come in towards the very end.
right,
They'd finished filming. They had done a rough cut of all 10 episodes.
right,
Even though it changed massively over the year that we worked on it, I
yeah,
got to watch the entire show, the rough cut of the entire show, um, to get an idea of what we're doing. And then I tend to go away for a little bit, couple weeks, and just try to work on themes and find the tone of it and the
right.
sound. And once I had found that and wrote a couple of themes, one was the main title, one was the end title. Then I get the pic. Then they've had more time. They're closer to a locked cut, as they say. Um, and then I can start writing scene by scene. So then I'll put the movie up on my screen and write as I'm watching it, scene by scene. And then I turn it over. Uh, there's lots of talk with producers about tone and pace and drama, emotion. And then I turn over these demos. So I do everything in my computer as a demo, turn those over. They watch them, give me notes, ask for changes. And then once we are happy with it, then I go. And what I did on this one is I went and recorded 4 episodes with the orchestra at once, and
Uh-huh.
then went back 2 months later and recorded another 4 episodes. So it was a lot of music. It ended up being about 6.5 hours of music. give or take.
And you
And
just
they're
admitted,
still changing picture at this point. So I've got to record to keep up with them, but then it comes back and maybe this scene's been cut, so we have to cut the music, and it's quite a jigsaw puzzle.
and you're a self-confessed music nerd. I mean, 6.5 hours, that's, what's that, like 4 albums?
It's a lot of albums. Yeah, I actually Platoon, who's the record label, was saying that, down the road we had to find an album that was I put together an album that was 90 minutes long,
Right.
but finding 90 minutes out of 6.5 hours, there's quite a bit of music still to be released. So one day we'll release everything. It's one of the
That
things I'd love to do for Band of Brothers too, and Pacific, is just release all of it for, the super fans.
and I wanted to pick you up
Oh, you're
just from
asking the process. I told you the process. That's right.
the process, yeah, and I just wanted to pick you up on something just from like an acting point of view. Like as an actor, you get a script, and you get a character in that script, and you start to glean what they're all about, and then you find it in yourself, the emotional journey and everything. How do you? Because you're overlaying that. You're adding emotion, or you're adding theme, or you're adding pace. I mean, I get how you do it in some respects, but like the score for Band of Brothers, like
Hmm.
how do you how do you come up with something just so poignant? And like where does that come from as you as an artist?
Well, I think
Or a
for
scene where someone, the platoon type scene where he's shot in the back or something. How do you get there?
Well, I think what Michael was going through with Band of Brothers is he had family that was in the military and died in the war. So he was writing from a personal point of loss, I think, which made it very poignant. It's interesting you bring up acting because I've always thought that I do kind of have to get in character when I'm writing.
Yeah,
Like I've done superhero shows, and you have to kind of get in character. What would it feel like to be the Flash running that fast?
Flash,
And
yeah, I love that
and
show,
with
man.
this, it's like, what did it feel like to be in that plane dropping those bombs, that tin can that's about to get blown out of the sky? What did it feel like to land in the British countryside? What did it feel like to get trapped on the German enemy lines? So it is like your process, I think. It's just how would it feel? And then where you do it with tone and words,
Yeah,
um, how do I do it with notes? And the scene's written for you, but you've got to bring it to life. And for me, the scene's shot, but I just as a film composer, you just kind of have to have an instinct of what it needs to support. And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes like we don't need music here at all, and I'll fight
right.
for that. But sometimes it's, hey, there needs to be a more sense of hope,
Right.
or be a bigger sense of loss. And how it's crazy to be able to. We've got 12 notes to pick from,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
what we do.
Find me lost, please. Find me lost on those
It's like
12.
it's like you finding the right facial expression or stance or
Right.
walk into a scene. That's for me. It's like how fast do you come into a scene. That's kind of my thing about pace and tone. And it's just years of doing it, as you know.
Right. And how has it changed? Because when I found out you were coming on, I sort of like, I don't know, like I was just giving film composition, and musical scoring, like some thought, tune it over. And then I remember that like it's changed drastically, hasn't it? If you go back and watch some old films, like it's terribly overscored, isn't it? It's quite jarring.
Well, we went through a period where it was way underscored, I think, too. Like if you watch a lot of movies in the 80s, it's
Right.
very underscored, but it's also the instrumentation is very synth heavy and very just light and sparse. So I
Yeah.
think we've gotten back to a more traditional approach and maybe balancing it out. I mean, one of the big fights I'll have with not fights, but just stand your ground arguments with a studio is just we don't need that much music. The scene's playing. And it's just even if I can get 30 seconds of quiet, it really helps the scene. Um, because otherwise I feel like if it's wall to wall, you go numb.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It becomes kind of wallpaper in an effect.
The other thing that's changed is that we have to now our demos have to sound pretty much exactly like it's going to sound. Do you know what I mean? So where Michael on Band of Brothers, he was writing these themes and score with piano, and then he
Yes.
would take it to the orchestra and we would play it. Or so they really didn't hear what it was going to sound like until the orchestra's playing it. But now, because it's so expensive to record, they want to know what's it going to sound like and just make it real, make it better. So that's
Right.
become interesting. You know, we all those film composers have to be computer programmers as well.
Oh, right. So you've got to do, you've got to do the heavy lifting as well as the creativity.
Yeah, didn't really sign up for that, but it's become just my process.
Yeah.
But interesting what you're asking about process too with you and
Yeah.
the scripts. I found through the years that I don't do very well when I just write after reading the script. The script tells me sort of what it's about, but I'm
Yeah.
such a visceral composer that once I see it, it's like, oh my God, now I get it. You know, to see what you guys are doing on the screen and how you're bringing. I was talking to Anthony Boyle from Masters of the Air. He's the narrator and
Hmm.
the guy that maps everything out and navigator. And I said, I wish that we could have this talk. Like, I wish I could have talked to you, the actor, about what were you thinking when you played this scene, because it's probably very similar to what I should be thinking as I score the scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was actually going to ask you about that. That feels to me like something that would happen in the theatre. You know what I mean? Where the rehearsal process is it's very sort of all inclusive, and even the guy doing the lighting and the stage, they sort of everyone's on the same page. And in film and TV, in the sort of like corporate way that it is, it's sort of like someone's in an office over here and someone's in an office over there. Um, has there been anything that you've worked on other than Masters of the Air where you've been part of the creative process, or is there the way that you have of sort of I don't know, maybe cornering the actor or just watching rushes in a way that sort of gets you involved, immersed in the creative process? Because I mean, I'm sure writing music, but acting is, you don't go in there when you do a scene and know exactly what you're doing. You bounce
Right.
off something, you bounce off somebody. I didn't know I was going to feel this way in this scene. It's like, it would be so helpful for someone writing a score to be part of that as well and sort of like be part of that creativity. But I also think it would bounce back the other way. Do you know what I mean? Like for an actor to have to be part of the score would be really cool as well.
Well, I think what the conduit that we forget is the director, and that is
Yeah.
my conduit to you guys. You know, and I've had discussions where it's like, what were you trying to get from Matthew in this scene?
Yeah.
We talked a lot about he came with this idea of tragedy, and I said, no, let's make it more about loss. I'm like, okay, that's cool, because that's my link to how you were playing the scene. So
Right.
that helps a lot, and the fact that you don't know what you want when you're going into it, it's probably too early for me to get involved. And also,
Right.
I would hate to influence it the other way. Like, what if you heard a piece of music I'd written for the script is super sad, and now you're led to play everything sad? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say. Yeah, that is a good point, actually. Yeah, right. Scrap it. It's rubbish. As well, I'm not a director. I don't know what I'm talking
What's
about.
great about score though is I can make any scene a comedy. That's what's
Yeah,
magic about music. If I put the right comedy music under it, like those planes flying, it's a cartoon.
it's hilarious. Yeah, I was going to ask you about this as well. Uh, are there any like scenarios in life where you sit and score it? I tell you why. Because I was once in a cab coming back from the pub in London, and that song "I Love You, Baby,"
Hmm.
and if it's quite all right, that was playing. All right, and there were these two guys that were hugging one another. I'm not making this up. Two guys that were hugging one another outside the pub, hugging one another, and it's quite all right. And then in that they started beating one another up, and it looked like somebody had scored it. And then it went back to "I love you," and they started hugging one another again, like they were trying to try not to fight. I was like, that is the most perfectly scored thing I've ever seen as I went by it.
That's hilarious. I would
And
love
I
to
was,
score real life. Just carry around a keyboard, just score real life constantly. It's like a
do you
Saturday Night
have
Live
to?
skit.
Can you score in your head, or do you have to be behind a keyboard?
No, I can do it in my head. What drives me crazy sometimes is like I'll hear things that then become musical. Like I remember uh driving with the windows down and this truck came by and the sound of its wheels started this pattern that then after he passed me, this is now stuck in my head and I'm like writing a piece of music based on the pattern that this truck wheels were playing. And that can become irritating.
Oh my God.
I was in Europe 2 weeks ago and I was walking through this big square and there was a saxophonist at one end, and at the other end was a guitar player. Right around the middle, I could hear both of them and they had this
Right.
mashup, but it was kind of perfectly in sync. I'm like, God, I wish they could hear that.
That's
So that's
fantastic.
fun. I mean, I tell people it's like a constant radio in my head. Um, and I have to figure out if that's mine, if that's new and that's mine, or if that's something I've heard before. But I love it. I mean, I don't know what else to do. At least you have construction if you want. I don't know what else to do. If you said I can't make music anymore, I'd be like, all right, game over.
Well, I dug out a plunge pool today, this morning. There's a waterfall on the land, and I dug that out with a shovel. And it was very useful actually because my 5-year-old daughter helped me, but I was digging out all the silt sand and she sunk up to her knees and couldn't move. So
Ooh.
I just left her there for about 20 minutes. Peaceful 20 minutes that I've had, actually, to be honest with you. Um, do you get, does it drive you crazy when you go and see movies and they're not scored right?
No, I can stop. I turn off because I love movies and I love
Yeah,
TV. And if I just watch it as a critic or I could done better. I saw an interview with an actor who had missed out on some parts, some roles that he really wanted.
yeah,
And I mean they wanted him but he couldn't do it for schedule. And he
right,
said in the end I'm glad I didn't get him because those guys it wouldn't have been the same movie and it's a great movie that I enjoy watching. So, would I have loved to have scored 1917? Sure, but I wouldn't have done what Thomas Newman did, and it's a
right.
phenomenal score. So that in that way, I can just disconnect myself and be a fan and be an audience member.
Yeah, no, I've spoken about that before. There hasn't been anything that I've missed out on as an actor that I've watched that I didn't think, yeah, that was the right guy in the first place.
Yeah,
So I think, I think the right things come your way. What
yeah,
you spoke about the Flash. I saw that you scored the Flash. That's great. That what's the difference in pro? Obviously, that's a kind of a asinine question. What's the difference in process with something like that? Is it far more quick turnaround if you're scoring the Flash
yeah. We
than
had a
something
lot
like
more time on this, but the writing process is uh, those are fictional characters, and with the Band of Brothers trilogy, those were real people. So this
right?
there's a different weight, there's a different sort of sense of burden's the wrong word, but responsibility, different
Yeah, no,
responsibility that I feel. So there's a lot more. I'm glad I had more time with this because it's a lot more digging and is this right and not just, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It moves them across the screen. I did care deeply about the Flash, and there's a responsibility there because that character's been around for 90 years and
yeah.
it's got a massive fan base. But this is like these are guys that if they were still with us, I would meet one day, and I hope I got it right for them. It's their real life.
Well, absolutely, you did. It's incredible and
You know
powerful.
that feeling.
Yeah,
It's just yeah, that's it. It's just responsibility.
yeah. No, no, it's exactly the way that the writers feel and the way that the actors feel as well. That sense of responsibility and the fact that that scores that story. That is a big weight of responsibility that you score that story is pretty incredible. Um, I'm going to switch tack a little bit now because whilst I dropped off air due to an overheating problem in the Weaverville Sunshine in my car, did you did you work on a Metallica album?
So I had met Michael Kamen in '96, and we'd worked together kind of as an assistant. I was doing some odd things for him, and he called me this one night and said, "Hey, are you an orchestrator?" And I wasn't, but I said yes because I always just say
Did you
yes. I'll
do?
figure it out.
Yeah.
And And he said, I'm doing this little concert with this little band called Metallica. Would you like to get involved? And I said, oh yeah, of course. So that's the first orchestrating I did for Michael was for Metallica concert of the album S&M. And we went to San Francisco for the premiere and worked with them on the concerts. So, and then we went to Madison Square Garden and did that concert with them. They are amazing. And those arrangements that Michael wrote for that album are crazy good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and the two funny stories are Michael, when he was conducting, would turn around and then he'd turn back around and lose his place because he'd turn
Right.
around and engage with the band, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided that one of us had to just kneel down in all black between Michael conducting and Lars drumming. And
Right.
so I did the first half of the concert and my friend James did the second half. So on MTV, all the videos from that concert, there's a guy kneeled down, that's me, with his back to the audience in all black, trying to be perfectly still. But if Michael turns around, I'm like, you're right there when he turns back around. And Lars would just fuck with me. If I looked at Lars, he would just bang the cymbal as loud as he could right next to my ear. They were they were so much fun. Um, yeah.
Yeah. They have like a legendary work ethic as well, apparently.
Oh, legendary.
How did that manifest itself?
They are so specific. I mean, those rehearsals were just so specific. There wasn't any, we're coming in, let's hang out and let's riff and let's jam. And it was very much on time. Do these three, take a break, come right back, do these three. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
lot of bands, a lot of bands are 30 minutes late and half drunk and on their phones and stuff like that. But these guys are like, no. They're also family men, so they don't really want to waste time. As we with kids know, it's like let's get it done and get back to it.
So you don't have
Um,
any crazy Metallica partying stories then?
I mean, they had some parties, but they weren't crazy. They were not crazy. Um, yeah. No, the funniest thing was I got to know the bouncers, their security team,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was backstage a lot. So I got to know their security team. And we get to the after party, and there's this is in New York. There's a bar, and in the back of the bar, there's a little VIP room, and in the middle of the VIP room is like a roped off section where just the band and crew were partying. So it's a party within a party within a party, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the restroom and I come back and I can't get back to the velvet ropes area. And I hear this security guard go, step aside, people. And it's this guy I've made friends with, right? And he
Yeah.
he's parted the seas like Moses and just goes, come on, Blake. And as I'm walking to the ropes, I hear this woman go, who's the gray haired doofus? I like the gray haired doofus is going to party with Metallica, but thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I
Thanks.
learned make the best people you make friends with the security team.
Yeah. 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 They can get you in anywhere. I have a friend like that. He's known as Champagne Martin. Yeah. He can get you in anywhere as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a man to be avoided nowadays, I feel.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You should have taken him catfishing last night.
Oh God.
Um, so,
Speaking of albums, the Leighton was asking me, and it is true that the Masters album is coming out on vinyl the 1st of August.
right. On vinyl.
If you have an LP player, I'll send you one.
Yeah, I have an LP player. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm excited because I wish they'd done it for Pacific.
Well, they may do. They may retroactively do it if Masters kicks off. If that album like
Yeah,
sells out,
true.
they might do it
True.
for Band of Brothers as well. I think that might have been on Blu-ray at one point. I'm not sure. Oh, I have to tell you, you scored a show called Pan Am.
I did.
So my friend who's in that, Annabelle Wallace, is one of the main actresses in Pan Am. And she is tough as old boots. She doesn't look like an old boot. She looks like a doll, but she's as tough as old boots. And actually, she's Richard Harris's niece. and Jared Harris's cousin,
Oh,
something like that.
wow.
So she comes from acting royalty, and because of that, she's just made out of iron. She showed me a review. People didn't really like Pan Am, did they? It misfired. But she showed me a review of her performance, and it said Annabelle Wallace was cast in this role because she's trilingual. Because I think she speaks like Portuguese, Italian, and English in the show as well. Annabelle Wallace was cast in the show because she's trilingual, but nobody bothered to find out whether she could act in any of those languages.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she just showed me that like it was funny. I had to shot myself.
Wow. That was also Margot Robbie's first project.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say I thought Margot Robbie was in it as
Yeah.
well. I didn't want to
I think she'd done like a few commercials before that.
right, and an Australian soap opera, Home and
Yeah.
Away or Neighbours, one of the ones that like ran forever. Yeah, it was a cool thing because I was Facebook friends with Annabelle, and Margot Robbie was on it as well because she wasn't famous at all.
Right.
And then The Wolf of Wall Street came out, and she somewhat disappeared off social media.
Yeah. No, it was a fun show, but it just didn't connect. We had in television, you do 9 episodes and then you
Right.
get no, you do they usually do 13 episodes and then you get what's called the back nine. If you're a success, you get the back nine and you get 22 episodes for the season.
Yeah.
And I remember on Pan Am, we got the back one. And I was like, oh yeah, we're over for sure. They basically
Yeah.
gave us one episode to wrap it up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And did they get you to score that episode? And was it like a French farce? It's like or Benny Hill scene or something. Everything's finished and the whole thing's fine.
Oh man.
What are you working on at the moment, if you don't mind me asking?
I do this series on Netflix called You, which is a
Yeah.
stalker series.
Yeah. Oh wow.
With Penn Badgley. It's fun.
Yeah.
I just started season 5 and it's
Right.
our last season, but it's going well. I have just done some documentary work and I'm working on a ballet and I keep busy.
You certainly do.
I'm doing a concert of all 3 of these, Band of Brothers, Pacific, and Masters of the Air with orchestra and choir in Spain at the end of October as a
Where?
proof of concept in Malaga, Spain. It's on the south coast of Spain.
Yeah,
And
I know it well.
I'm doing it as a proof of concept in hopes that, it's something we can take around the world. I think it'd be cool to tour this music.
Who's invited to this? Who's invited to this proof of concept?
Oh, it's a soundtrack festival that they do each year, and this year we pitched this idea to them of doing the 3. I'm going to tell you what it.
Yeah, is it open to the public?
That's the name of the. That's the name
Is
of
it?
the. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I think we'll have to go down there, Leighton. I think that's going to be. That sounds absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I sent him the name of the festival, so check it out. It's October 24th will be the night.
Yeah, I'm free then. I'm busy early October and I'm free to do that. That sounds so cool.
Oh my God, if you're there, I'll have you come up and talk about Band of Brothers. That'd
Let's
be
sort this out.
amazing.
I'll 100% come up and I'll do a whole talk, whatever you want to do. And we'll ask each other questions. Let's do the whole thing.
Let's do it.
Like, in public, because I mean, I'm fascinated by the music that you do. I'm fascinated
You
by
still
how
got your wardrobe, right?
yes, basically I do. If you're asking me whether it still fits, I need to sweat a bit more in my car. And I'll shave and I'll look less like I've been working in a ditch all day. I'll come way more corporate. That sounds fantastic. It sounds so cool.
Yeah, well, we'll keep in touch. I'll tell you as we go. I'm just starting to plan that, and it's funny. You think, well, I'll just play this, and this, and you start putting it together. You go, oh no, this takes some work to put together.
It does take some work to put together. Do you I mean, I don't know if you have the time or the inclination, but do you release your own music as well? Are you like in a band, or do you have your
Yeah.
own music? Yeah,
Yeah, I
tell us.
do. I have a solo album I put out 2 years ago, and I'm working on my second one now. Um, it's just instrumental music, but it's the stuff that I write for myself instead of for shows.
Yeah, because you have plenty of free time. You're like Tiger Woods. You know, he plays golf to get away from golf.
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, he relaxes from golf by going and playing golf.
Yeah. Wow.
Blake Tiger Neely.
Jeez. Now I mean, it's always been my hobby, and I'm lucky to be able to do my hobby as my career. So I don't want to. I keep doing that. Like I'll spend a day each week doing
Yeah.
something for myself, because if I ever get to the point where it's like music just feels like work, then I've failed myself. So that's kind of why I do it. I don't do it to really put it out, but then once I figure out, oh, that's enough for an album, I'll put it out.
Who's the best? Who's the goat? Who of people who score music for TV or film do you look up to and think, I'll never be that good?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many. Like I said, Thomas Newman, James Newton
Yeah.
Howard, who I've had the pleasure of working with. I think Michael Kamen was a goat.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, obviously Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
There's my friend Ludwig Göransson is just doing amazing work. You know, he did Oppenheimer
Oh, wow.
and yeah, Tenet. There's just so many, and it. God, when I started, it was just not to sound like, oh, when I was young, such an old man. Uh, but when I started, there weren't that many composers, and now it's like, you joke that in Hollywood you throw a rock and hit one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the
I know
advent.
it's one just off two actors.
Yeah, exactly, right. But
Yeah.
there's also, when I was getting into this, there were like 10 television shows you could possibly get a job on, and now there's 700 shows. So the economy works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. It's a weird time though now, man. The movie business.
Why is that? Well, I'm getting that. It'd be interesting from your perspective. I'm getting that a lot from actors. I've
Man,
got
I don't
friends who are
I think
editors. And,
I mean, I kind of think pandemic went on just long enough that we went, I don't really want to go to a theater anymore. I want to stay home and watch it. We got so used to the isolation and the comfort. I mean, it's totally fine to go to movie theater, but I even stay at home and I love movies. So
yeah, I
I
get
think
what
something we
Ricky
have to
Gervais.
shake. We have to shake our own trees and like fall out. Go to the
Yeah, I get
theater.
what Ricky
Nothing
Gervais
like it.
calls cinema rage. Like Ricky Gervais has alluded to it. Like everybody else in the cinema annoys me is the problem. I love the big screen experience, but if I don't go with myself, my extended family, and all my friends, there's always someone in the cinema I want to strangulate.
Hmm.
They're just doing something annoying. So that could be that I too am an old man now. So it's just cranky old man stuff. But when the
Also,
cinema
though,
works,
I think technology. I mean, like a 85-inch screen is affordable now in your house.
right?
The
Yeah, that's true.
Atmos soundbar system is affordable now,
Yeah,
so people can have that, and like you said, just have your friends over and not the
yeah,
people you want to strangle.
yeah, exactly. People checking their phones or eating constantly. I mean, what do you need to eat throughout the whole movie? What are you, diabetic? For goodness sake, stop stuffing things in your face and chewing loudly.
Also, I just asked a friend of mine today, said they're thinking about going to this movie, but they might wait because it'll be out in 2 weeks at home. It's like we used to have to wait 6 months or a year
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
it at home. So I don't know. I just hope
I think you
it'll.
got it on garbage VHS that would like crinkle and crackle, and someone had bought it on the rude bit, so that bit was always fuzzy. Didn't rewind it properly, and that broke
Yeah,
your VHS. I remember all those days very well.
you
Um,
got charged if you didn't rewind.
yeah, charge it if you
Charge
didn't
you extra.
rewind. You go into Blockbuster, you think, God, I didn't rewind it, and then you're just trying to put two pencils in and rewind it in the shop.
Have you
Like
seen the documentary about the last Blockbuster?
no, my son has. My son's really into stuff like that. But it
It's
like,
good.
is it good? Like, because yeah, yeah. Because I know he told me that Netflix pitched themselves to Blockbuster or something, and Blockbuster turned them down. But what happens in the last Blockbuster? Is it still going?
Well, there's still one that
Is
this
there?
guy defiantly keeps open. And
Right.
it's not associated with Blockbuster, but he has a franchise and he decided to keep it open. It's fascinating. But it's so nostalgic because when you watch it, you're like, oh, I remember going into those rows like that. And like how
Yeah.
they would have the new release section and the kids section. So that's a fun documentary.
All right. I'm
What are you
definitely
working on besides the waterfall?
Besides the waterfall, well, they're rebooting a kids show I used to be in when I was about 25, and I was supposed to be playing a 14-year-old, and they're trying to get me over to film that. So I may go over and do a little bit on that, or I might just wait for them to do all the pilot stuff, and then I'll come in later on. So I think I'll do a bit of that. But I do a lot of this company, this podcast. We do a lot of battlefield tours and big long 2-week tours in Europe and that kind of stuff. So we've got a couple of Masters of the Air tours coming up. We've got one in September where we've got like half the cast coming with us. And then we've got one in January where we've got, amongst others, we've got Sawyer Spielberg's coming. So, and we're going to erect a monument and all sorts of stuff. So that takes up a good deal of time.
That's great. Where's the tour go? Like where will this Masters tour go?
Well, the one in September is all in England. So it's all the Thorpe's Abbots and all that kind of stuff. But the one in January, we sort of, hang on one second. We've sort of subtitled it Escape and Evasion. So I think we're doing, is it the Rosie's Riveters, guys that crash in Belgium?
Mm-hmm.
With Babyface and all those guys, we're sort of following that. And we've got like, we're going to the crash site, and then we're going to Alice from Dallas. I do apologize, Leighton. Is the Alice from Dallas crash site. And then some places where that they hid out and all that kind of thing. So we're as much as we can. We've got like places where bits of the propeller are and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So as much as we can. I mean, I sort of defer it to the historians, which is why I sound like a politician, sort of not answering the question properly. But I defer it to the historians and the guides to find the best places that they can. And our guide Reg he's really sort of delved in deep, and he's found places where the guys hid out, and the beginnings of the comic trail of them trying to get back to the UK, which took up to 6 months. In the show it takes 20 minutes before they're wherever they're going, but it used to take like 6 months of these guys hiding and escaping and evading. So as much as we can, we're sort of going to delve deep into that in January, and it's all new. We've been doing Band of Brothers tours for a while, and I personally have been doing them since about 2018. But this is all new to me. So, like, I mean, I can bring a lot of info to the band tours. On these Masters tours, I'm just a nerd. I'm a super history nerd anyway. So, I'm really, really excited about it all. And we'll get
cool.
We'll get the guys in the show to talk about the experience, to talk about where we filmed this, how this happened, and everything. And then we're just going to dive deep. But I'll tell you that the one that we're going to do in England, it's sold out in 40 minutes.
40.
It was like 60 people on a bus, 60 tickets on a bus. It just, bam, it went like that. So, and we've been inundated with people going, how come we missed out on that? So, I mean, the show's had an incredible impact, and everyone waited so long for it, and they want so much more out of it that I think there's going to be a whole new sort of industry around Masters of the Air tours as well, and learning more about it. So, hopefully, we're slightly ahead of the curve on that one.
That is terrific. Wow.
Well,
all right, I'll have to look at your site and find when they are.
Yeah, come along. I mean, if you come along, Blake, we'll have you as a guest. So
sounds cool. Well, thanks for having me as a guest on this, and let's keep in touch throughout.
Yes, mate.
And I'll see you in Spain.
Yeah. We're definitely going to come in October. I have to ask you one question before you go, because I ask it of everybody. I don't think there's going to be an answer here, but we subheaded our podcast "The Nearly Man." So, is there something you could nearly have been that wasn't a composer? Were you going to play for the Yankees, or were you going to be a ballerina, or
no?
were you going to be Metallica?
Oh my God, I hate answering this question to you. I was going to be an actor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
You made the
know.
right choice.
Yeah. No, that was what I was going for up until I was about uh 14. I still wanted to do music. Like I knew I wanted to be a composer forever and was doing that, but I thought I can't make a living at that. And around 14, I'm like, I suck as an actor. What am I doing?
That's
And
a
so I just
great answer.
focused on music. So that's my nearly.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. Hopefully, it's not been too destructive. I do apologize.
That's funny.
Some type of bomb just landed, I think. No, I think there's a lightning storm that's just set off the 4x4 there. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been great chatting to you. I'm really
Thank
looking
you
forward
all.
to in October.
Yeah, I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay,
Thanks
thanks,
to
Bill.
both of you.
See you, mate. Cheers. Well, very much for listening. It's a brilliant podcast. If a little chaotic, Elon's Starlink on my land, I didn't trust, so I came down outside the laundromat in Weaverville, which has wonderful Wi-Fi and some very colourful characters who were setting off alarms and that kind of thing. But it was great talking to Blake, and I'm most definitely going down to that festival in October. We are recording another one soon. I'll probably do that one back on the land, so there's less chaos. As you can hear, there's thunder coming down as well. this is this has been a fun recording. Listen, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers, guys. Bye.